What's up, Taiwan? I'm Liao with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan has indicted 10 people suspected of spying for China. Several of them are active duty military personnel. 3 Taiwanese men, including 1 army officer, are accused of leading the group. Prosecutors claim they recruited people in and outside of the military to gather state secrets. 2 soldiers in the group are accused of filming videos for Chinese propaganda. More than 21 high-level Taiwanese officers have been convicted of spying for China in the last 10 years. To find out more about espionage within the Taiwanese military, TaiwanPlus reporter Sam Hui spoke to Kitch Liao, Assistant Director of the Atlantic Council's Global China Hub.
How serious is the Chinese espionage against Taiwan's military?
I would say it's relatively serious. It's a pretty serious problem, but it's not just because, it's a Chinese action. It's more that in combination with what the Chinese are actually conducting toward Taiwan. We're talking about 3 warfare, we're talking about information operations, psychological, all sorts of measures that's been conducted against Taiwan. On top of that, I believe it's actually a pretty serious threat right now.
Why some of the Taiwanese military officers willing to cooperate with China?
The other part of this question actually delves into how we treat our officers and what some of the systematic problem in the Taiwanese militaries are, right? We're talking about morale issues, and we're talking about the pressure that's being exerted on our current force. And we're talking about, not the least of which, pay, right? That's what most Taiwanese would focus on, but I would argue it is a lot more than just pay. It is, the constant, reminder that your work might be futile because a lot of this paperwork is being kept merely informed and does not contribute to training.
Are we seeing more spies or more cases being convicted?
Now, as I understand it, there is a sort of an understanding that any military intelligence espionage case would not be prosecuted by the military, investigated by the military themselves. They would hand it over to the civilian agencies like the Ministry of Justice Investigation Bureau and vice versa, right? It's just a matter of who comes over here to help you clean house. What I would say is that, there are sufficient factors right now, both exogenously and endogenously, to incentivize, people already within the military, because we're talking about people, on a curve, right? We're grading on a curve. You have people who's extremely loyal, and you can induce them to betray their country no matter what. And you got people, who would basically turn sides at the slightest provocation, but most people are in the middle, right? So we're talking about there are sufficient factors right now from all the Chinese all the Chinese operations that's putting stress on our forces, from years of force reduction, from all the pressures that's being exerted, not just from the Chinese but from our political establishment, from their superiors, to create almost a hellish environment. You got so many people trying to get out of the military right now. Now, that's not a healthy environment.
What can Taiwan do to eliminate spies from within its ranks?
It's morale. It's taking care of your own people. It's giving them, the tools. And by tools, I don't mean toys. I don't mean equipment. Giving them the tools, the environment, sufficient manpower, and, sufficient, flexibility to do the job they've been asked to do. I think that's the most effective way right now to actually not just, eliminate, and to the greater extent is espionage, but also to make a functional Taiwanese military officer corps.
That was Kitch Liao from the Atlantic Council's Global China Hub speaking to our reporter Sam Hui. Taiwan has helped extradite an Australian woman wanted for several murder plots. Australian police allege Lisa Lyons orchestrated attempts to kill her former partner and his mother. She fled to Taiwan, which does not have an extradition treaty with Australia. Taiwan opened its own investigation and passed on Australia's extradition request to Palau, where Lyons had gone on vacation. Taiwanese police officials accompanied her on a flight back to Australia. Taiwan's three presidential candidates have had a busy 24 hours on the campaign trail. In addition to new policy proposals, there are hints that a failed alliance between the two parties, the KMT and TPP, might not be dead after all. John Van Trieste has more.
一样有爱心，一样正直。
DPP presidential candidate Lai Ching-te's latest campaign ad tries to appeal to the way Taiwanese people like to see themselves: hardworking, hospitable, and above all, kind-hearted. In the last day of campaigning, it's this last trait he's been focused on. Taiwan's already put more than $1.5 billion into a program meant to help people with disabilities. But Lai wants to go further. Here's what he told parents and guardians at an award ceremony commending their care for disabled children.
包括社区居住及日间照顾据点到1812处，那么预计可以增加服务14572人。
As Lai focuses on domestic matters, his Kuomintang rival Ho Yo-i has focused on an issue that's long been important to his party: bringing Taiwan closer to China. China claims Taiwan and threatens to use force to take it. The past 8 years have seen the China-wary DPP in control of the presidency, and Taiwan's ties with China have suffered. The Kuomintang wants to change this. Ho even wants to revive a trade pact with China, a deal so controversial, students occupied the legislature to block its passage back in 2014. At this economy forum, it wasn't all about China. Ho says he wants Taiwan in the CPTPP trade bloc, but a pledge to bring warmer ties with Beijing was the key takeaway from his address.
我不希望来的是战局，我希望来的是客机，不希望是一个危机，希望是一个商机。不要像我们只说开放2000个。
As Taiwan's two traditional main parties talked policy, Taiwan People's Party candidate Ko Wen-je talked strategy. He wants to be Taiwan's first ever third-party president. Though no fan of the DPP, talk of him forming a joint ticket with the Kuomintang went nowhere. With the deadline to register candidacies now passed, this is officially a three-way race. But it's also a race for the legislature. And Ko says that here, an alliance with the Kuomintang is essential.
国民党思考看看说，如果真的要三党不过半哦，在这种区域立委的层级上，还是需要合作的。如果完全分裂的话，民进党有可能单独过半。
As the campaign nears its final month, the feasibility of this renewed call for an alliance will be the next development to watch out for. Scott Huang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A rocker turned politician has announced he plans to join Taiwan's ruling party. Tiffany Wong has more.
Rock star turned politician Freddy Lim spoke here at Taiwan's Legislative Yuan for the first time publicly since announcing his intent to join Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party. He was invited to join the DPP by the party's presidential candidate Lai Ching-te, who also serves as the current vice president. Lim, the outspoken lead vocalist of popular heavy metal band Sonic, was elected to the legislature in 2016 under a small pro-independence party with support from the DPP. He won again in a historically conservative district in 2020 as an independent. He's a known critic of the Beijing government and has pushed for Taiwan independence, making him a progressive figure in Taiwanese politics.
那个时候入党可能会被误解为要争取不分区，所以我就又再调整了一下时间，到现在这个时间应该比较合适。
Lim said he was compelled to campaign for the DPP in the upcoming elections after both the two other parties with presidential candidates, the Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party, announced plans to once again strengthen trade ties with China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory. Lim got his start in politics as a youth leader protesting a trade agreement with China, and now is seen by many as a symbol of hope for an independent Taiwan. Earlier this year, Lim announced that he would not seek re-election as a lawmaker in order to take care of an ill family member. But in joining the DPP, Lim has shown that his career in politics is far from over. Now the party hopes that this progressive politician can help them expand their voter base in an election season like no other. Howard Zhang and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
The Kuomintang's vice presidential candidate is being questioned over possible violations of Taiwan's broadcasting laws. Cao Shaokang is a former KMT lawmaker and co-founder of the pro-China New Party. He left politics in 1996 and it went into media, later buying the Broadcasting Corporation of China, or BCC. Taiwan's communications body says it's concerned Zhao's ownership of the company goes against rules that prevent politicians from investing in TV and radio. It's asked the BCC to explain how it will treat all candidates fairly during the election. Zhao says he will not step down as chair of the BCC, but won't host shows on its network while campaigning. The host of the COP28 climate summit is planning to use the talks to strike oil and gas deals. That's according to a report by the BBC. The broadcaster says it's been shown leaked documents that reveal the United Arab Emirates plans to discuss fossil fuel deals with 15 countries during the meetings this week. The UAE team has not denied that it plans to use the summit for business talks, saying, quote, "Private meetings are private." 5 people are dead, including 2 children, after a fire ripped through a house in northern Taiwan. The blaze in Miaoli killed the couple who owned the home, along with their 2 young daughters. Firefighters found a 5th victim whose relation to the family is still unclear. They're looking into how the fire began. At least one of the victims was a Vietnamese national. Vietnam's representative office told TaiwanPlus it's working with local authorities. The southern city of Kaohsiung is one of Taiwan's biggest cultural centers. That's why a group promoting artists from across Asia has chosen it as the host for their first get-together in 4 years. Yu Jinghuang has more.
A Voice for the Powerless. The musical Tropical Angels depicts the lives of people living through conflict in Southeast Asia. The play is one of 8 performances featured at this year's gathering of the Federation for Asian Cultural Promotion, an organization dedicated to developing the region's performing arts scene. The group's 2023 conference is being held in Taiwan's southern port city of Kaohsiung, and it's the first in-person edition since the COVID-19 pandemic.
We have more than 80 delegates from Asia and also Europe to join us. And after the pandemic, we actually changed a lot, but we're also happy to see each other, and we're looking forward for more collaborations and also more artistic creatorship in the coming future.
A diverse set of performers are here to celebrate their roots and culture. 11-year-old Filipino harpist Vian Ignacio shares her country's history by playing music composed by Julio Nakbil, a revolutionary who took part in the Philippines' 1896 uprising against Spanish rule. And dancers from Hong Kong are showcasing their work inspired by a funeral service. Choreographer Terry Zhang says it reflects a chaotic few years for Hong Kongers.
因为最近香港从2019年，然后到疫情，香港我们发生了很多事情，然后我在想，好像我们的里面的人好像没有一个方式去 release 我们的情绪，然后我觉得这个是一个很好的机会，给我就是用破地狱的元素，用葬礼这个元素来给香港一些人做一个治疗。
Meanwhile, a contribution from Taiwan focuses on the stresses of life in modern society. This musical work is created using sounds and images collected from trees around Kaohsiung.
觉得这个树这个本身呢，它其实就是一个非常非常中性的一个东西，一个大家的生命都有共同的对于树的不同的记忆，它最容易能够连接彼此。 就抹去掉彼此之间产生的，不管是压力也好，或是一些斗争，或是一些比较负面的情绪也好。
In a world facing renewed challenges, art remains a potent force for bringing people together. And events like this remind audiences that humans have more in common than what sets us apart. Kamashi and Yu Jinghuang for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Before we go, check out this flower festival in southern Taiwan's Jiayi County. I'm Liao, take care, and I'll see you next time.